Hey, what is up guys, Robin here from RDNA2 Hardware. In today's video we're going to build your next budget mini-itx gaming PC build, meet the Fractal design Node 304, and inside here we find AMD's latest and greatest APU called Ryzen 5 3400G with built-in Vega 11 graphics. This is a 4-core and 8-thread processor with graphics that is fast enough to game at 1080p, and this makes this PC the perfect pick for anyone want to build a PC that they can game on right now and maybe plug in a Radeon RX 6700 or Nvidia GeForce RTX 3060 later down the road. Now, to get as much performance out of the APU as possible, I'm pairing this with 16 gigs of super fast 3600 MHz DDR4 memory, and in today's video, we gotta build this PC together. We're also gonna look at gaming benchmarks a bit later, but in case you want to build this PC yourself, you find all PC parts listed down below. And if you don't want to miss any upcoming PC builds, make sure to leave a big like on the video and subscribe to never miss an episode. With that said, let's start with the motherboard. Coming in at 118 bucks, the MSI B450 mini-itx Gaming Plus AC makes our base for this build. Now, the Gaming Plus OC has a lot of nice features you definitely don't want to skip over on a mini-itx board. We find AC Wi-Fi, gigabit Ethernet, we got audio here, we also find M.2 slots and a total of 4 SATA 3 ports. However, there are a few limitations you also need to be aware of. Since we only find a total of 2 DIMM slots here, 32 gigs of RAM is effectively as high as you can go, and also there is only one single 16x PCIe slot, so you can't really run SLI or Crossfire, but those things shouldn't be a deal breaker for most people anyway. And despite its minimalistic size that only measures 17 by 17 centimeters, this board offers most, if not all, that you need for a very decent Ryzen enabled PC. MSI is putting a lot of effort in their BIOS, and they are committed to support all B450s to fully support Zen 3 and Ryzen 5000. We find a 4.2 phase design here with massive heatsink, and this is enough to run 8-core Ryzen processors without any issues. I also want to say that guys, I got a bit worried when I picked up this box and I couldn't find the Ryzen 3000 support logo. However, it does seem like MSI just hasn't updated their boxes, as a quick look on Amazon reveals that motherboard seems to ship with 3rd-gen Ryzen support from factory nowadays. Even mine came with 3rd-gen Ryzen support even though the box said otherwise, so that's very good to know. So with that said, let's move on to the CPU, and in today's build we're hooking up the B450 with this AMD's latest and greatest $150 APU flagship. Now, unlike its cheaper $99 3200G, the 3400G is also soldered just like the more expensive chips, which should allow for lower temperatures and better overclocking potential. It's a 4-core and 8-thread part with a base and boost speed of 3.7 and 4.2 respectively, but it also comes with built-in Vega graphics with 11 compute units, and this is enough to game at 1080p. And in terms of CPU performance, we can see that the 3400G is not a whole lot slower than the Core i7 7700K in some scenarios, and this is a very solid 4-core gaming CPU. Inside the box we'll also find a CPU cooler, and in order to install this we first need to uninstall these brackets you see here, and once these have been removed, we can install the cooler. Now, moving on to RAM, I found this 3600 MHz kit super cheap from Corsair, and I urge you guys to pick high-speed memory sticks for this build, as the way the Ryzen and these APUs work, you simply gain more performance by having higher rated mem sticks, and because the GPU unit doesn't have any video memory itself, it essentially has to borrow that from the system memory. That is one of the reasons why we want as fast DDR4 sticks as possible to get as much performance out of the GPU as we can. And once we have reached the point where all these parts have been installed, it is time to install the motherboard in our case. And in today's build, we gotta make use of Fractal Design's Node 304, coming in at just around $114. Gotta be honest here guys, I love this case. It's a mini-itx enclosure, so it's got a fairly small footprint. However, it is a slight bit bigger than those mini-itx cases you might have seen, like the Dan case for example. Node 305 measures 250 by 374 by 210, and on the front, yeah, there is not a whole lot going on, just a very small LED on the lower right corner indicating when the case is on. I also find a small HDD LED right underneath, and the case comes in both black and white. There is a fan controller on the back that lets you control all 3 fans that comes pre-installed. We find two 80mm installed in the front and a single 140 in the back, and this is what they sound like. Now the top as well as the sides are just a single piece of material, and once we slide this off, yeah, we can install the IO shield on the back. Now once this is done, we can simply just grab the CPU cooler and align everything, and it makes the installment a piece of cake. And because we have already installed CPU and RAM, we don't have to play around with that inside later. Moving on to the SSD, I once again ended up picking up the A400 from Kingston. It has dropped in price quite a lot over its lifespan, and although this isn't the fastest SSD out there, it is more than enough for our PC build today, and 1TB of storage should be more than enough for quite some time. The Note 304 can hold up to 6 hard drives in total, which is just insane, and you can, if you want to, turn this into a NAS later down the road if you wanted to. As for power supply, I've been using Corsair for many builds now, and gotta be honest here, I've never had any issues, and the cool thing about having a semi-modular power supply is that it allows for a much cleaner and a nicer looking PC build overall, and I recommend opting for a power supply with removable cables. Opting for 550 watts gives you plenty of extra headroom when you want to upgrade to Nvidia's upcoming RTX 3060 or the Radeon RX 6700 for example. And once the installation is done, yeah, it is time for some gaming benchmarks. Let's quickly first have a look at the pure CPU performance, and I decided to include a wide range of similarly priced processors, and this is essentially what gaming performance you can expect in case you decide to upgrade to, let's say, RDNA2 or Ampere later down the road for example. And as we can see, generally speaking, the 3400G is actually quite a lot faster than its older 2400G brother, and this is much thanks to the improved cache and memory latency on the redefined Sun Plus architecture. And for the most part at 1080p, it is faster than the Core i5 3600K, and it's not a whole lot slower than the 1600X. Moving beyond 1080p, we can see that the 3400G is even more competitive at 1440p, and once again we see that it's not far behind the 1600X. But as we can see guys, as with any budget CPU these days, there is a limit how far you can push these 4-core parts. It is obvious that modern games nowadays can utilize more than 4 cores and 8 threads, but to be fair, considering the $150 price tag, there is no denying that there is a lot of performance here you get out of the 3400G. With that said, let's look at gaming with the integrated Vega 11 graphics. First up, we got Rocket League and Doom from 2016 stand against the $99 3200G. That is cheaper, slightly slower little brother, got fewer GPU cores, and it's also lacking SMT, which can be seen from these results. Rest of the games guys are running at 1080 and 900p, where the lowest graphics settings have been used. Now Rainbow Six Siege did actually very good here. Keep in mind of course we're using the lowest possible graphics quality, which is of course worth having in mind. Fortnite also plays pretty well in 1080, but that being said, Far Cry New Dawn for example is a tad bit much for the 3400G, while World War Z for example ran fantastic. And so as we can see guys, it can actually fluctuate quite a lot between specific games, therefore it can be a good idea to look up the games you're planning on playing to see where the Vega 11 lands. But overall, yeah, for being an integrated GPU, yeah, I think the 3400G is doing fantastic. Again guys, all parts mentioned are linked up down below. Now if you got any questions, let me know. I actually made a similar $500 gaming PC not that long ago based on the very same APU, and so in case you're interested in a slightly bigger enclosure, you find that video linked up down below. Now, if you ever wanted to play together or just chat with me, feel free to add me on Steam. Find the details down below. With that said guys, I want to thank you so much for sticking around this long, and let me know what other PC build you would like me to do coming up next.